All right, guys, we are now in the fourth film of this Planet of the Apes franchise. Where does it hold up against the rest? Is it the best? Is it the worst? Well, let's talk about it. My name is Brandon Keith Avery, and this is just my opinion. Hey, what's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Just My Opinion for my Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes movie review. And if this is your first time finding me and you happen to like the video, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. That is a mouthful, but still a great title. It's PG-13, coming in at 2 hours and 25 minutes. Now, this film is being directed by Mr. Wes Ball, and if that name is familiar to you, I can understand why. He was responsible for the Maze Runner trilogy that started in 2014 and ended in 2018. I really did enjoy those films, especially the first two. I thought they were done quite well. I actually remember being in the theater for part two, the Scorch Trials, with some of the characters running through the desert. It was nothing but lightning strikes crashing down all around them. I remember saying and feeling to myself, man, these are some of the best visuals I've seen in a theatrical experience in quite some time. This is amazing. I really don't remember that much about part three. I think it was okay, but I really did enjoy the first two of the Maze Runner films. And so that is who's directing this fourth film in the franchise, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Now, when it does come to my expectations for this film, when it was first announced that Disney was going to make another movie, I did not care. I said, just let this franchise die. I don't want to see any more of the Planet of the Apes movies. Mind you, the first three were done by 20th Century Fox, but Disney bought out that company for billions of dollars, and now Disney is getting a hold of it. Reasons why I felt that way is I love Rise of the Planet of the Apes. That is my favorite out of the trilogy. Don't hate on me, One Take Big Dog. Don't hate. Dawn is still a great movie. I love Dawn. Dawn is fantastic. I just happen to like Rise more with Dave Franco or James Franco, excuse me. But War for the Planet of the Apes, it did not reach my expectations at all. I was severely disappointed. I wanted a war between the apes and the humans, and we didn't get that. And that's what all the trailers and marketing led me to believe that we were getting. And I was actually quite bored in that film too, with super duper high expectations. It just didn't reach the mark for me. And so I was pretty much just done with the franchise, or at least just wasn't excited for anything more. So with this Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, I was like, you know what? I mean, it looks nice, but I just really didn't have that much interest. But then the first reactions to the film came out, and everybody was just saying how fantastic it was. And so that did pique my interest. And so I went from low expectations to mid to mild expectations going in. But guys, before I get into all the nitty gritty, before I talk about all my likes and dislikes, let me go ahead and tell you exactly what this film, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, is all about. Many years after the reign of Caesar, a young ape goes on a journey that will lead him to question everything he's been taught about the past and make choices that will define the future for apes and humans alike. Now, guys, at the end of this review, of course, I will give my rating like I do at the end of each review, but I'm also going to rank these films of how I feel about them from worst to first, but I won't spoil that right now. And this review will contain non-spoilers for the most part. If I get excited and passionate and I am about to drop a spoiler, I will give you fair warning to skip ahead or to mute your sounding device or however you are watching this. But I will not waste your time anymore, guys. I will go ahead and say that I really did enjoy this film. And in fact, I loved it. And if you was on the fence of whether you were going to see this film or not, please go ahead, make your reservations, buy your tickets, because this is a good film. It's actually one of the best films that I've seen in 2024 so far. I don't want to go as far as saying it is the best, because Doom Part 2 was up there as well. I love that, and I was running out of the theater just busting out at the seams of how fantastic that was. But this is a worthy competitor as far as the best of 2024 so far. And again, I will rank this at the very end. But what makes this film so great is that it is 300 years or generations and generations on into the future. This is not a year, 2, 5, 10 years later after War for the Planet of the Apes in 2017. So we're getting an adventure, a true adventure, as we're getting to know these new characters in territories that we've never seen before or that we're not really familiar with. What do I mean by that? Well, we've seen a ton of post-apocalyptic films, but at the same time, not where they were overtaken by apes. And when Wes Ball went to the studio to pitch his idea for this film, he did say that I wanted this to be just like Apocalypto, that I believe was directed by Mel Gibson in 2006. I don't like the man, but still he's a fantastic filmmaker, just like Apocalypto in 2006, but with apes everywhere. And I think that he did tackle that quite hard in this film and executed it flawlessly. From the very beginning of this film, I was pulled in, I was drawn, and it grabbed all of my attention. I love to see all these cities that were abandoned and in ruin, that was not occupied by humans anymore, but it was nothing but foliage, trees, branches all around the place. Seeing light fixtures, tall buildings, cars, railroad tracks, just covered in nothing but foliage was really interesting to me. I felt like I was watching Avatar all over again, but this was Earth, but just the way that I've never seen it before, just greenery all over the place. And then when you have these wide shots of these monkeys, these orangutans swinging from tree to tree, from branch to branch, to building, it just looked amazing, and that was far off. And then when you zoom in on the characters, my goodness gracious, what a digital has stepped up the motion capture, the CGI, whatever you want to call it, all the way up to levels that I did not think was possible. These films look great all the way back in 2011 with Andy Serkis fulfilling the role of Caesar with motion capture, Avatar and all that stuff later on, but this is just as good and 2 or 3 times better. Maybe not 2 or 3 times better than Avatar, but at least 2 or 3 times better than what we got in 2011. It was at 12 or 13 years ago. The characters in this film, I attached myself to them immediately. I wanted to be their friend. I wanted to get to know them. I trusted them. They felt like they were my own brother, sister, or a distant cousin, just because I wanted them to win. I cared about what they cared about. I cared about their culture and what they wanted to learn and embrace. It was just beautiful. All of this wrapped up into a nice bow. I was eating it all up as an audience member. There was so much emotion and detail in their face, whether it was happy, sad, upset, excited, nervous, cautious, all of that. It showed in their face, it showed in their mannerisms, it showed in their body language. And I was just blown away of how these effects help enhance the whole entire movie experience. And as far as the effects, you can only go so far as the design of how you want to create these animals and make them look. But I was kind of worried at the very beginning when the credits were going through, okay, are we going to get the exact same characters that we got in the previous 3 films? It's just going to be in the future and they're going to have fur and completely different places on their body? No, this is not a copycat off Maurice or Caesar or any of the other apes that was in the past films. These are completely brand new characters with their own individual arcs, and they are in depth, and you want to get to know each and every one of them. One of the main characters by the name of Noah, played by Owen Teague, he was phenomenal. I also love Rocker, played by Peter McCone. Man, I love these characters. There was not one character in this film that I did not like, whether they was the protagonist or the antagonist. I mean, I saw all sides, even some of the humans. And when we go back to 2011 with Rise of the Planet of the Apes, it was like 90% humans and 10% apes. It is the complete 180 reversal of that. It is 95% apes in this film and about 10% humans. And whether you was a human, an ape or a human, I wanted to know more about you. I wanted to learn. Every time somebody was introduced in this film, I was leaning in like this, like, tell me more, show me more, I want to learn. And we all got to see apes from different age groups as well, from little toddlers to teenagers to young adults, old adults, and the elders. It was just beautiful to look at, to see how all of the apes got along with all of the other animals, whether they were horses, zebras, eagles. They just all got along and had a respect for each other and a last longing bonding relationship. And also, like I read in the synopsis, there were different tribes, there was different clans. And again, that's just another reason why you're pulled in. When we remember Caesar, and his legacy is still alive in this film, and a lot of apes still do remember him, even though that this is 100 years in the future, it is contorted. And I wanted to know, I was really interested in seeing how all of these apes branched off into different clans and tribes, and how they would switch up Caesar's teaching and interpret it in their own twisted way. I wanted to learn that story, and I love the exposition of how we got there as well. That gave us a lot, and not in just complete, boring, bland exposition dumps, but just a creative way to tell the story while giving you enough, but also leaving more to tell in future sequels, to where I hope we do get sometime down the line. And there's a lot in this film too. I said it's right under 2.5 hours, 2 hours and 25 minutes to be exact, but it does not feel long at all. I was a bit concerned because right when the movie was about to start, one of the contractors that was directing the screening came in and said, "Hey guys, put your phones away because this is a long movie. If you're pulling out your phone, we'll kick you out, yada, yada, yada." I was like, man, how long is it? I forgot to look, but it didn't feel long at all. The pacing was great, especially when we're going across large bodies of land. It is a true adventure as you're trying to see as much as possible in this new world that we're not familiar with. Again, it's in the future and it's being taken over by plants, foliage, and apes and all of that. And I like the action too. There was a lot of ape on ape violence, but in some cases it was necessary, unfortunately. In other cases it wasn't. I was just saying, oh my gosh, stop fighting, guys. Work it out. Use your words. Don't you remember what Caesar said? Apes together strong. And while all these different clans and tribes felt that way, the way they interpreted that in different ways, I'm just like, man, what in the world happened? Where did this divide come from? But I want to learn, and I was watching this film little by little as each minute passed. And it is also interesting how this film reflects real life, and most art does, but there is a lot of lost history and hidden history in this country and across the world, and that was also represented quite nice in this film too, because a lot of the apes do know the history from hundreds of years ago, but other apes do not. And when they are revealed the truth at some points during this film, their reaction to receiving that news kind of made my eyes big. And I just liked the way that was handled too, because that's how we sometimes handle it in real life. And the thing about it, when it comes to the protagonist and the antagonist in this side, I was kind of rooting for both. I wanted the protagonist to win and the antagonist to win, no matter what ape clan or ape tribe they came from. The so-called main antagonist in this film, I honestly wanted him to succeed. I wanted to see what was going to happen. I was down for the mission and did not blame him for his mindset. I didn't necessarily agree with his methods and the ways that he wanted to accomplish his goal, but I wasn't mad at the brother. I was like, hey, I see where you're coming from. You're quite harsh, but I see where you're coming from. And again, there's so many life lessons in this film, just on how humans react to the real world and how they never will change and will always remain the same. And that's the exact way in this movie. There's just some groups of people that you cannot trust no matter what, because history tells you so. And again, that's reflected very well in this film. The sound mixing and design was phenomenal. There was one point in the middle of this film where characters start talking and revealing their names, and the musical cues that helped set that up, that complemented it, just took it on higher levels of entertainment that you just don't get that often. I mean, it's just when somebody's name is introduced and it just gets some big bass theme in the back, it just makes it that much more compelling and just badass. And I love that as well. I also just love the culture in this movie too. Things that happened at the very beginning, I love the way they circle back around at the end to wrap off the plot. That was quite nice, just great writing there as well. And I will say, for me at least, when I was watching this, I could not determine which one do I like more. This film, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, or my favorite, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, the first one that came out in 2011, directed by Rupert Wyatt. It was the last 5 minutes that sent this film Kingdom over the top of the hill for me. This is my favorite out of the franchise. I love this film. I barely have any complaints. My only nitpick is one decision that Apes decided to get rid of certain animals in this film. I was like, okay, why would you do that? That was kind of annoying and silly. But other than that, guys, I have no complaints. This was the perfect bookend to this story, to this chapter, but also left the door cracked open so that we can potentially get more sequels down the line. And after seeing this, it would be a damn shame if we did not get to see more. And I hope this film makes all the money that it possibly can, because it does deserve it. This was fantastic. I love this film. And like I said, it's one of the best that I've seen in 2024 so far. And again, human beings, we are very smart creatures and individuals, but we can also be very dumb as well. And through our own hubris and ignorance can just set us down a path of destruction. And this film did address that as well. So we just need to get our act together. And those messages are throughout this film, but they don't beat you over the head with it. I will go ahead and give my rating for this at the very end, guys. But for now, that is just my opinion. And I want to thank you so much for tuning in. If you did like this video, please go ahead and give me the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, share the video. Thank you for helping me reach 50,000 subscribers, and leave a comment in the comment section down below. But guys, if I had to rate Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes out of a 1 out of 10, actually before that, let me go ahead and rank these films from worst to first. Coming in last place was 2017's War for the Planet of the Apes. It looked good, but man, that film was disappointing. It was boring and did not live up to the expectations of it being an actual war. It was absolutely horrible marketing in that film, and that just led to its downfall. Coming in at third place, this film is fantastic. It is great, and I loved it, but that's Dawn for the Planet of the Apes. Again, I thought it was a fantastic film and a good follow-up from the first one that came out in 2011, but Dawn right now is sitting at number 3 for me. Coming in at number 2 is Rise for the Planet of the Apes, that started this chapter of the Planet of the Apes movies in 2011 with James Franco, the birth of Caesar, him being the king, emperor of all these apes, directed by Rupert Wyatt. Oh my gosh, I love that film. I remember when it would just pop on TV randomly back then. No matter what point in time it was in that film, I would stop and watch it. But right now, the King of the Mountain, for me, the best in the whole trilogy, or excuse me, these 4 films, is what's out right now. And that is Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, directed by Wes Ball. This is the best one for me, at least. That's just my opinion. I loved it, loved it, loved it. So if I had to rate Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes out of a 1 out of 10, I would give it a 9.5 out of 10. Yes, a 9.5 out of 10. But guys, again, I just want to thank you so much for tuning in. And before you go, don't forget that I'm Brandon Keith Avery, and that's just my opinion. Peace.